Hi, this is Bruce Soord from the Pineapple Thief, and you're listening to Kaleidoscope Ears.
I'm speaking with Bruce Soord. How are you, Bruce?
Oh, good. Yeah, good. It's what time is it here? It's like just coming up to midday here in Yeovil, in a small town in England. So yeah, I'm in my studio, quite relaxed.
It's only a couple of hours to midnight here, so.
Oh, is it? Oh,
yeah.
Weird. Yeah, yeah.
So the Pineapple Thief, the 11th studio album, is about to come out, 12th of August, called Your Wilderness.
Yeah, it's like you say, every time someone says, "Oh, it's your 11th record," it's like, blimey, I still can't believe that we've done this is the 11th record, which is why I think we had to give it a bit of a new spin in terms of how I approached it, and and the personnel and all that kind of thing. So I'm hoping people like it. It's exciting times.
Well, apart from the new album that's coming out, you've been pretty busy over the last few years with other projects. Tell us about some of those.
Well, yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit the fact that it's only sort of the last 18 months that I've been able to go full time as a professional musician. It's before that all of us had to have day jobs. Just because it's the modern era in being in a band, it's not easy to actually convert music into bucks. And so, the last 18 months, when I sort of went full time, I was able to spend loads, focus on production and mixing. So like one of the big things that's changed for me is that I've got produced and mixed a lot of bands, done especially 5.1 mixes, which seems to be sort of a big thing in progressive music. There's a lot of people out there that love surround sound, high definition surround sound releases. So I did an Opeth reissue, Deliverance remix, worked with my friends Catatonia quite a lot over the last 18 months.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about the 5.1. How did you get into doing that?
Basically, the big guy is Stephen Wilson. He did an awful lot to promote and introduce 5.1 to a lot of fans out there. And so I just decided to upgrade my studio, to spend quite a bit of money upgrading. Had a good chat with Stephen about 5.1 and because when you approach a mix in when it's surrounding you, when you're so used to mixing in just two speakers, stereo mix, it's a different world, and there are no rules. What do you do? What do you put behind you? And what I quickly realised was that the audiophiles out there, they really want what they call an immersive experience. It's completely false in terms of realism, because you've got voices, backing vocals, guitars coming out from behind you, surrounding you. But once you sort of separate your mind from the fact that it's not particularly realistic, and you just immerse yourself in it, it's an amazing experience. And when you go back to stereo, it's like, oh my God, where's all the depth? Where's all the sounds gone? And so yeah, it's been a real eye opener, and I'm really trying to promote it. All the bands that come and I mix, and especially the unsigned bands, I always say to them, do you want to do a 5.1? Because it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot easier to do than you might think. You can distribute it free with FLAC files, or I can give you a DVD to press. So yeah, I'm hoping that it will spread.
So it's cheaper than doing vinyl?
Yes, it is. You can either go digital, so there's a FLAC format that supports all 6 channels, so you can just, a lot of audiophiles now have media streamers, so they prefer just to download digital, just like people with stereo onto their phones. And but you just press it onto a DVD. So it's nowadays pressing onto DVDs is as cheap as pressing a CD. So yeah, it's definitely achievable.
And for a while there, you were touring with Catatonia.
Yeah, that was great fun. Yeah, I think ever since I met Jonas when we did the Wisdom of Crowds album together, that was a good while ago now. I can't even remember what year that was, but. So we've remained friends, and I spent time over in Stockholm, and got to know all the guys in Catatonia and all the guys in Opeth as well, because they're all good friends, and I think, and then when you get into that sort of relationship with people, when it's just a nice friendly relationship, and they wanted to tour. An acoustic tour, and at the time the Catatonia were going for a bit of a tricky phase, because a couple of members have left. Their drummer left, and their guitarist, who'd been in the band for years, Sodo, had he left as well, and so they were in a bit of a pickle. So they asked me if I could join them on the tour, just to play acoustic guitar and do backing vocals, and it was a great experience. And 17 songs I had to learn pretty quick. That was was quite challenging, but we had a great time.
So how did you released a solo album last year? How does that kind of project differ from a band project?
Well, that was the thing. I remember after I did the last Pineapple Thief album, Magnolia, I kind of felt really torn in my musical head. The Pineapple Thief, I knew I wanted to be more of a musical progressive project, a bit, less focused on writing catchy melodic songs, in a way. Even though I'm still a big fan of the hook, I wanted to go back to more progressive ethos for Pineapple Thief, more of an anything goes in terms of songwriting. But I also had this overwhelming urge in my head to write songs, to pick up a guitar and write songs that immediately resonate with people, a bit of a singer-songwritery style. And by doing the solo, I was able to separate those two brains, those two musical heads, and it really helped me. So now I know, I think it's really helped me give the Pineapple Thief an identity going forward. And so I'm luckily, the solo sold enough for my label K-Scope to ask for another one. So hopefully it'll be a good parallel running for me going forward. The more melancholic singer-songwritery Bruce Soord, and then the more anything goes progressive, sound of the Pineapple Thief.
Oh, that's excellent. Tell us about some of the guest artists on this album. They're quite a few as opposed to the previous Pineapple Thief albums.
Well, there's a huge difference, because I remember saying to the guys in the band when we sat down and to talk about what we were going to do, we were going to write another record. I was like, well, I don't know what to do, because I'd done Magnolia, the last 3 records ever since Someone Who Is Missing had sort of, they were, I felt like I'd done that. I've done that phase. I didn't want to do another Magnolia, and I said to the guys, well, I feel like I need, I'm a little bit burnt out. I can't really put myself through it again, where I would be a control freak. I would write all the parts. So I made a conscious decision to just let go. And I wrote the songs, obviously, but I kept them very, very basic. And then I said, right, you to the band, and I wish I'd done this earlier, to be honest. I said to the band, I'm not going to tell you what to write. You do whatever the hell you like. John, on bass, you play whatever bass line you want. I've got a bass line in my head, but I don't want it to be that bass line. I want the Pineapple Thief to change. I want it to be more, more exciting in terms of what the end result is going to be. And with that in mind, as when I approached Gavin Harrison to drum, I didn't tell him anything, how I wanted the drums to sound, and also what kind of guy would tell one of the best drummers in the world what kind of drums they wanted, And I remember when Gavin asked me, and I said, look, just do whatever you like, complete blank canvas. And I think he appreciated that. But at the same time, I remember when I'd finished the songwriting and I just said, put it out there, and I said to everyone, do your thing. It was a terrifying thing for me, because what if it went wrong? When people sent their parts back, it was like, oh my God, this is not what I wanted. So it was a gamble. But luckily, it was just one of those things where everything just came together. I don't know whether it was method or luck or what, but it just all came together really nicely.
So you've got some other members of some pretty big bands as guest artists. You've got someone from Caravan, someone from Gavin, Supertramp.
Yeah, it's John from Supertramp. That was a real sort of fanboy thing, because I remember when we got John, when Gavin agreed to drum, I was thinking, God, this is interesting. An interesting way to make your record a bit more exciting. And when you've been doing it for so long. And I thought, who else can I ask? And I've always been a massive Supertramp fan. Crime of the Century is one of my all-time favorite records. And so I just dropped John an email. I found his website in the depths of the World Wide Web and sent him an email. And he didn't reply for 2 weeks, so I thought the ship had sailed. But when he replied, he said, send me some stuff. And so I sent him some stuff, and he replied, says, yeah, this is great. I think, I'd love to do it. So we drove up to Manchester in England, met John for lunch, talked about Supertramp. I was desperately trying not to be that starstruck fanboy, talking to him. And then we went to a studio, and he just jammed over the track, and it was a lovely day. He's a lovely guy. And just hearing his stories of what it used to be like in the real heyday of Supertramp, the late 70s after Breakfast in America, it was just a different world. It makes you think.
And Jeffrey Richardson as well?
Well, that was a weird one because we previous albums we'd used a big string section, and we got a guy called Andrew Skeet to do these really lush arrangements, and I loved it. But for this album, I wanted something different. And I remember listening to it's a Nick Haywood record. He used to be in a bit of jingle jangle pop band in the 80s, 90s called Haircut 100. Mm-hmm. You'd probably have to look them up. And so it was a really obscure record, and I heard the string section, and I really loved it. And I looked up who arranged and played the strings, and it was Jeffrey Richardson. And I didn't know who Jeffrey Richardson was at that time. And so I Googled Jeffrey, and it was like, oh my God, it's Jeffrey Richardson from Caravan. This was a really odd way to find Jeffrey Richardson from a Britpop album that I found him. And just got in contact with him. And the other weird thing is this the very first band that the Pineapple Thief ever supported, very first gig we did was supporting Caravan back in 2002, 2003. So it was a weird, that came full circle in quite a strange way. But yeah, that just worked out brilliantly. Jeffrey's got his studio in Canterbury, did his strings, sent them through, dropped them in the mix, and everything just worked. It was kind of takes the romance out of it a bit. In the old school way of doing a record is a record label would pay for you to go in a studio for 6 weeks and you'd all huddle together as a band and come up with this hopefully an amazing record. Whereas this was the opposite. It was always everyone was doing it remotely, and which does take the romance out of it a bit, but it also just takes the pressure off. It was a really nice, easy record to make.
Also, should send a nod to Darren Charles as well. Is that his guitar solos I can hear through there?
Yeah. Because Darren's been a mate of mine now for a good 5-6 years, and we instantly got on really well. I think we're both songwriters, we're both guitarists, we both sing, we both sort of are the main guys in their band, so we had a lot in common, and so we do a lot of moaning to each other, when we were down or when things were annoying us, and so we became really good friends, and he's always helped me with guitars and playing guitars. And with this album, he lends me all of his amazing guitars as well to play when I'm recording. But for this album, he was I'd always share my early demos with Darren, in the really early days, to say, look, is this any good? What do you think? And so he would hear the songs really early on, and he'd just send me guitar parts just because he loves playing guitar. And technically, he's a fantastic player. And it just made me realize that he can do it so much better than I can. And all these amazing. If you can hear something that's technically good guitar-wise, then it's Darren.
It's a kind of a perception that I have that the Pineapple Thief was kind of the band that you listened to after Porcupine Tree. You kind of trying to take over Porcupine Tree and incorporate them, since there's no Porcupine Tree,
or
there hasn't been
they're
for some
still
time.
On ice. Yeah, still being put in the cupboard. I know that K-Scope, my label, would love to tap into the Porcupine Tree market because they want to sell records. But I must confess, it didn't cross my mind. It did. It crossed my mind when it was suggested that we ask Gavin, because I thought, well, do I want to sort of play into the hands of people that think the Pineapple Thief is some kind of, have always been in Porcupine Tree shadow. And I didn't want to do that because I personally don't think the Pineapple Thief's music sounds anything like Porcupine Tree, even though we're in the same kind of genre, the same ballpark in terms of the progressive rock that we do. And getting Gavin in, because Gavin was such a key part of the Porcupine Tree sound, it was bound he was bound to bring that to Pineapple Thief. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't complain if we took some of the old Porcupine Tree market, because Porcupine Tree did an amazing job at breaking through. And I always remember going to one of their towards the end of their career. I saw a big gig at the Forum in London, and just looking at the queue and just being really impressed with the demographic that the band had managed to achieve. They had your sort of stereotypical progressive rock demographic, sort of the 70s music lover that still loves going to gigs, but they also had an awful lot of young people, people who were disillusioned with modern pop and electronic music that just still wanted to hear, good, intelligent rock music. And so I always said there's a market out there that, and I know these people would love the Pineapple Thief if they heard it. So yeah, I wouldn't say no.
So Your Wilderness is touted as a concept album, but you won't tell us what the concept is.
Well, I didn't want to spell it out, because the way that I write my words is quite simplistic in terms of, you know, I'm not going to go into graphic detail and spell out what a song is about when I write my lyrics, and it's more of an emotional journey, I think, with that people can hopefully relate to and latch onto. And I always remember that people come up to me and say, "Oh, Bruce, your music has really got me through some dark times." And I wouldn't want to change that. I wouldn't want to risk taking away that personal attachment that some people have with the Pineapple Thief. But yeah, in terms of there is a concept. I mean, the concept is quite straightforward, and I think it comes through from the artwork. You know, the front cover's got a mother and a daughter looking out over the wilderness, and the wilderness to me represents life and the future, that the terrifying future that you have as a child, looking at your future, but also the perspective of the mother looking at the wilderness that their child is about to embark on, and that does inform the entire record. That the emotions of being close to whoever it is, and everything you go through in life, and it does touch on things like estrangement, separation, and reconciliation. So yeah, there's definitely a key theme, and that's what it is really through the record.
What you said there about leaving the concept vague reminded me a little bit. I don't know if you're aware of Damo Suzuki from
No,
Can?
not actually. And I'm certainly aware of Can, but not of his solo stuff.
Yeah, he was the front man for Can, and he travels the world gathering local musicians, and they do what he terms instant composing. So he just gets the musicians together, and they just start. He gives them a slight direction at the start, and then they just go off and improvise something for the whole set. It's quite mesmerising, actually, and I remember him saying that what he wanted to achieve with the music was something different for everyone who was listening. They would interpret it their own way. And it sounds to me like with this record, you were doing something similar. When you wrote the songs, you gave it to the other members of the band and your guest musicians, and you said, take this and do something with it. So it's a kind of similar thing to me.
Yeah, and I think that does hit the nail on the head, and that's why it's quite an exciting record to make, because I didn't know until the end how it was going to turn out. I didn't know if it's going to be any good. I knew my songs were good, but that's only a little bit of the equation. So yeah, it was terrifying but exhilarating.
Now, Bruce, here's the question for you. Catatonia is coming to Australia in the next couple of months. Anathema's been coming regularly. Obviously, Stephen Wilson's been coming reasonably regularly. When are you guys coming?
Yeah. I know when I saw Jonas from Catatonia a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me I was talking to him about Australia, because they're really excited because it's the first time that they've been able to do a headline show. I think they've been over with Opeth before, and
they've done a festival as well. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and it just made me realise that people, you can do it, and there is a market there. That I mean, we'd be prepared to come out. And I think most bands I know that would tour if they break even, and so yeah, I think the plan for the Pineapple Thief is we're going to hope that the sort of the reaction to the new record continues as it's gone. We're really pleased with the reaction online that we've had so far, and it certainly seems to be stepping up. So we're just going to hope that steps up in terms of sales, and if sales step up, then it means that the K-Scope, our label, will have more money to give us for touring, and so. It's all up in the air at the moment, but like my band and every band I know that is touring, they just want to tour as much as possible and play as many countries as possible. So yeah, it's definitely on our list to do.
We'll see if we can get the promoters listening.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So, 12th of August, Your Wilderness hits the shelves and the download sites. So I wish you all the best with that. Bruce Soord, thanks very much for chatting with us again.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks. Yeah, it's good to talk to you too. I'm sure we'll speak again.
Follow Kaleidoscope Ears on Facebook and Twitter. And check our website, kscopeears.com, for restreams and reviews.